There you go, Sonny. Okay, thanks for joining us. I was absolutely delighted to host Prime Minister Luxon in Queensland today for our annual meeting. Australia has no closer partner than New Zealand. We are family, and we share values, we share history, and we're two of the world's most integrated economies. And the meeting that we had beforehand as well with business leaders really highlighted that integration which is occurring, and we spoke about practical ways in which we could further integrate our economies, have that seamless activity across the Tasman. And in addition to that, I think there's a new element, which is that we're living in a world which is really volatile, where there is a great deal of turbulence, and some of the old certainties that commanded global trade and global activity has disappeared. At a time like this, Australia and New Zealand working together is more important than ever, and there are also more opportunities than ever. Our engagement together as friends in the Pacific Island Forum, in ASEAN, at the sideline with our fastest growing region of the world in human history just to our north, our participation in APEC, our engagement across so many global forums as well, provides that real opportunity going forward. So I think this is an exciting time for us. As many of you would know, our Closer Economic Relations Trade Agreement was one of the first major achievements of the Hawke government back in 1983. It is one of the most comprehensive bilateral trade agreements in existence anywhere. Australia is New Zealand's third largest trading partner, and New Zealand is Australia's seventh largest trading partner. In 2025, two-way investment was valued at $308 billion. In 2025, our two-way trade in goods and services exceeded $38 billion. This year as well, we celebrate 75 years of our alliance under the ANZUS Treaty. The other thing we've spoken about today is our cooperation in defence, in foreign affairs, in international relations that's so important, both in terms of the interoperability of our defence forces, but also the benefits that we can get from our defence industry investments that both of us are making going forward. As founding members of the Pacific Islands Forum, we're also working with our fellow Pacific leaders to support Pacific-led regional architecture. Now, I had a visit just this week of Prime Minister Wale soon after his election in the Solomon Islands, and he'll visit New Zealand in just a short period of time. That is really important. We discussed the lead-up to the PIP meeting in Palau. We'll participate, of course, in a pre-COP event as well in the region, and we'll continue to engage in the Pacific to meet the challenges which are there, but also to seize the opportunities which are there. So I want to thank you, Christopher, and I thank Amanda as well for visiting us, for members of the New Zealand business community who've joined with us here today. I think it was one of the most effective business meetings that I've had as Prime Minister, I've got to say. It was very sharp, and a lot of work went into the preparation clearly to make sure it was a very effective use of our time, and I thank the Australian business leaders as well for visiting us here in Queensland. So we'll hear from Prime Minister Luxon, then we'll have questions.
Well, firstly, kia ora everyone, and can I just say thank you, Prime Minister Albanese, for so generously welcoming us here and for your very kind words up front. We have really enjoyed our time together with you, as we always do, as a delegation, and it's a real pleasure to be back here in Australia and to spend some time in Queensland, which is obviously a pretty popular tourism place for Kiwis to head to as well. I agree with Prime Minister. I'd like to think that the strong and close relationship we have is a small-scale version, actually, of how our two countries relate. Our connection goes well beyond shared borders and history. It rests on a genuine warmth between our two countries. We are family, as we say, and I think this relationship is in the best shape it's ever been. We have real work out there in the world to do together to remake the case for multilateralism rather than the multi-power world that seems to be emerging. We are moving definitely from a world from rules to power, from economics to security, and increasingly from efficiency into resilience. But we have two fantastic countries that can do incredibly well out there in the world together by working together. We are sitting in a region that is the biggest driver of growth in the world. At 2/3 of future global growth will come out of the Indo-Pacific region. 2/3 of the middle class will be sitting in this region. We have abundant natural resources. We have strong social and democratic institutions and values that many of the world aspire to. And most importantly, we have most incredible world-class people and talent. So despite the choppiness, despite the volatility, there's no reason why we can't do extremely well for ourselves. Look, today we had a very productive discussion. As the Prime Minister said, we touched on defence. That history continues to shape how we cooperate today. That ANZAC connection that was forged so long ago is just a good reminder of us about how enduring and relevant that relationship is. We talked about ensuring that that relationship remains fit for purpose. That includes our defence cooperation with the goal of operating even more closely in a more integrated way over time, working towards that capable ANZAC force that we set that vision for in 2035. We also talked about the importance of our cooperation in the Pacific. New Zealand and Australia have closely aligned interests in supporting a region that is incredibly stable, resilient and prosperous. And we also committed to working together in a coordinated way that delivers practical outcomes for our Pacific partners as we do each and every day. Alongside that strategic alignment, our economic relationship is highly developed. As the Prime Minister said, there's about $38 billion worth of goods and services that moves between our two countries each year. It was a very, very good conversation with the CEOs from both sides, talking about what more we can do together. And that alignment in our economies just continues to play a really big strength as we think about how we build more financial security as part of our broader national securities in the context of that volatile and changing world. There's more that we think we can do together as we think about how we do more around technology, building that resilience and driving more economic productivity and more economic growth. It was a real pleasure just then to stand and actually see the signing of the next phase of the Trans-Tasman Science Collaboration related to the synchrotron agreement that reinforces New Zealand's long-standing commitment to international science collaboration and shared research infrastructure with Australia, and it commits us to the next phase. And then finally, our people-to-people connections are just another key strength in our bilateral relationship. And Australia, of course, is the largest source of visitors for us, with more than 1.5 million Australians coming over and seeing and spending some time in New Zealand. And that is a genuine two-way exchange, as you know, with New Zealanders coming to Australia, and more broadly, a number of New Zealanders now calling Australia home. Looking ahead, I felt after this visit there are real clear opportunities in this foundation to continue to build out upon. Having met with the Brisbane 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games team, that is a massive chance for our region, a fantastic chance for our region in the next decade to lift the profile of tourism and infrastructure and productivity in the broader Australia-New Zealand region. At its core, this is a relationship that is deeply integrated. It is highly practical and pragmatic. It's focused on delivering outcomes for both of our countries, and the priority for both of us is to continue to build on that strength, focusing on positioning Australia and New Zealand to make the most of the opportunities that we see out there together in the world, in spite of the volatility and the uncertainty. Prime Minister, I just want to reiterate again a big thank you to you and Jodie for so warmly and being so generous with your hospitality, and we really appreciate the friendship and the spirit of our negotiations always with you and all the officials and all of our teams that work so closely together, and we look forward with great confidence to continuing to deepen our friendship and our partnership and taking it to the next level.
Thanks, Christopher. We'll take questions, I think, alternate between Australia and New Zealand.
Olivia Sanders from ABC. Prime Minister Luxon, the Australian federal government recently announced changes to the capital gains tax discount. Following that, your Finance Minister urged Australians looking to start a grow a business to come to New Zealand because you don't have capital gains tax. Do you support this call from your Finance Minister, and if so, why? And for Prime Minister Albanese, what do you think when you hear our neighbours are encouraging Australians to move overseas, effectively criticising the changes to the CG?
Well, I might jump in first here.
No, I think I know what you're going to say.
What next? The WA's signing another Jackson Ford. I mean, we have a relationship which is often a bit tongue-in-cheek. That's the truth of the matter. The WA's sign our players. We have a few Kiwis in Australia too. 638,000 of them here in Australia. 1 in 8 New Zealanders live here. Why? Because it's a good place to live. Just like Australians will continue to enjoy living in New Zealand
90,000
as well. And so it's a good relationship. Occasionally there's a bit of cheekiness to the relationship. Long may that continue.
Yeah. Look, no secret within the New Zealand domestic context there's been a long-running debate now for over 10 years about the merits of introducing a CGT or not. You know, we haven't ever introduced one in the country. Her comments were really in the context of that debate domestically rather than there was no comments about the domestic settings of the CGT here in Australia. That's up for you guys and your different economic context to obviously make your decisions. As it's a debate domestically in New Zealand, we don't think that's appropriate for New Zealand, and we feel pretty strongly about it. We've got a recovery underway, and we just think a CGT being introduced to New Zealand now would be a wrecking ball for our economy.
Sure. Do you support a call for Australians to move over to New
Well, I think the Prime Minister discovered, I think it was done in good humour, and yes, it was cheeky, I agree. But what's important for me is that we don't comment on each other's domestic economic policies because there's different contexts and different histories that may have got us to different decisions, and she definitely didn't do that. She was responding to the broader challenge about the merits of a CGT in New Zealand, and that's really what it's quite a robust debate about that.
For any All Blacks out there think you're moving to Australia, we can fast track your citizenship.
Thank you, from the New Zealand Herald. The WA's and All Blacks notwithstanding, did you feel, Prime Minister Albanese, did you feel it was appropriate though for Nicola Willis, who is also the government's finance minister, to attack New Zealand's Labour Party by essentially saying that your government made its tax reforms because you're under political strain, and on that political strain that both of you are facing from the likes of One Nation and New Zealand First, is probably one for both of you. What do you make of the rise of immigration as a political issue on both sides of the Tasman, and do you think that that's bad?
Well, maybe if I take that one first. I mean, the immigration debate in New Zealand, as I've said in recent weeks, is, I get what the populists want to do on one side of politics about talking about immigration, but the reality is we have a system that is about legal immigration. We have an immigration settings that are constantly adjusted and tweaked to make sure that they are very strongly linked to our infrastructure capacity, but also to the broader economic agenda we have. And when countries lose their formation about linking immigration to their economic agenda and their infrastructure capacity, that's when we've seen challenges like we've seen in the UK, where there is, frankly, up to 1,000 illegal immigrants coming into the UK each and every day at times. You've seen huge amounts of illegal immigration in the US. So that is not the situation that we have, certainly in New Zealand. That political mentality, the point I've been trying to make, shouldn't be trying to be imported in to whip up xenophobia and an anti-immigrant feeling when that is not the way, that is not the New Zealand experience. We have legal immigration, we constantly adjust our settings, we make sure that it's broadly linked to our infrastructure capacity and importantly our economic agenda where we have work shortages and gaps. And I just think it's easy and lazy politics doing so.
Yeah, look, we have cut immigration levels of the net overseas migration by 45% since its peak. Obviously, post-COVID, there was a spike in migration. That's not surprising, given that Australians were stopped from coming home, let alone people visiting Australia as well. We are a nation made up, with the exception of First Nations people, of migrants or descendants of migrants here in Australia. They play a vital role. One of the things that I will never draw a distinction between is Australians and migrants, because to do that is to seek to divide. Before I became Prime Minister, there was a scare campaign saying that the boat arrivals would start up. The truth is that no one who's arrived by boat is allowed to stay here. We've kept Operation Sovereign Borders in place. We have an orderly migration system. What we are doing is making sure that is continued, making sure we link migration with skill shortages is very important going forward.
Can I get an answer to the first part of the question? Did you feel it was appropriate for Nicola Willis to make those comments and attack New Zealand's Labour Party by claiming that you made changes because of political pressure?
I'm very relaxed about what people say tongue-in-cheek overseas. I doubt whether anyone took it any more seriously than I did. That's the way that I took the comments to make, and that's the nature of the banter that occurs. Myself and the PM here were exchanging text messages over the Sydney FC game that was held. When was that? About 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
About 2 weeks ago on the Saturday night. That's the nature of banter. I know the Finance Minister. I also know Chris Hipkins as well, and I regard him as a friend, as I regard the other Christopher as a friend here as well. I have no intention of engaging in internal New Zealand politics, and I don't think the Finance Minister was doing that either. I just took it as a bit cheeky, given 638,000 Kiwis are living here. I don't think there's 638,000 Australians living in New Zealand. So
There's 90,000, and I just do want to point out we've had a...
But they're quality.
Yeah.
The quality Prime Minister. As are every one of the 638,000 New Zealanders, particularly those who have taken up the opportunity of my changes I made to make it easier for them to become Australian citizens and vote in Australian elections. And I encourage both of those events to occur.
It sounds like a perfectly good time to move on to the next question from the Australians.
A question to Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and Mr. Luxon, if you'd like to jump on off the back of it. Mr. Albanese, how concerned are you about China's recent travel ban on 4 Kiwi MPs following their cross-parliamentary trip to Taiwan? And do you think it's appropriate for our foreign ministers to make representations to Beijing?
We make diplomatic representations all the time when it's appropriate. Australia's position on Taiwan has not changed. We support a one China policy. We support the status quo as well. MPs will make their own decisions and they're entitled to do so.
Yeah, we have very much the same view that MPs represent the legislature. They're not part of the executive government. Visits are up to them. It's been a long-standing practice, frankly, of MPs accepting invitations to visit Taiwan. We think it's inappropriate the bans are put on these 4 MPs from New Zealand that have gone. They've simply just exercised their right to travel and they're free to see who they want to see. And so for us, we have raised our concerns with the Chinese government and we're seeking to understand why they've done that and understand that better. And again, from our point of view, we haven't made any changes to our one China policy, and it continues to be fully observed by our government. So, we'll work that through with the Chinese.
Do you think it was appropriate for Australia's foreign minister to make comments on that?
Oh, look, we appreciate the support. I mean, again, we both recently in the last week came out jointly supporting each other's. We actually supported the Australian call for making 3 more extremist settlers on the West Bank, entirely appropriately sanctioned as well. And we think that's good. That's a good example where we do come together in that. So we appreciate the support and the concerns being raised as well. Obviously, we work it through with the Chinese directly ourselves as well. Kia ora.
Given interoperability is a priority,
Yep.
Mr. Albanese, will Australia ever expect New Zealand to change its nuclear-free stance to allow Australia's nuclear-propelled ships into its waters? And given the pressure on the US to up defence spending, if both countries actually rely on the US to help it within the Pacific region, where threats and tensions are rising, when the US is so unpredictable and
Well, 2 questions there. On the first, what I expect is for New Zealand to remain a sovereign state. and we respect the decisions that New Zealand makes. We work with our friends in New Zealand each and every day. We have defence personnel embedded in each other's defence forces. That is very important. We cooperate and see huge opportunities in not just in the defence of our respective nations and working together, but as well in defence industry and what that will do. One of the things about defence industry, it's highly advanced manufacturing. So there are spin-offs as well from that, and we want to share the benefits for that as well. With regard, we respect New Zealand's position, and we'll work with that whilst respecting New Zealand's sovereignty. On the US remains our most important ally. We celebrate this year 75 years of ANZUS, and the alliance that we have with New Zealand, the alliance we have with the United States. We've recently got a third alliance now with Papua New Guinea, the first that we've had since 1951, is very significant. We think that the US, just in the last week, we've had up at the Shangri-La Dialogue meetings of our respective defence ministers of the US, the UK and Australia, and our Deputy Prime Minister works closely with his counterpart, Pete Hegseth, in the United States. This is a relationship beyond just individuals, beyond leaders of our respective nations. This is a deeply committed relationship. Australia have key personnel, indeed the deputy there at Pacific Command in Hawaii. We have people in Central Command embedded in the United States. There are many Australian submariners working as we speak at the moment on US submarines, learning the skills and the capacity which will benefit Australia when we receive the Virginia-class submarines and when we build our own SSN AUKUS in the future as well. So we regard the United States relationship as being very important. We encourage the United States to continue to be engaged in our region, and we work closely with them.
Yeah, and I'd just say with respect to the point about interoperability between our two forces, I mean, in the last 12 months we've had 15 joint training exercises between the Australian and New Zealand Defence Forces. We now have currently, at the moment, there is a Hercules flying under Australian call sign. We have Seahawks that are coming, helicopters, we have P-8 aircraft, so that we've got the same kit and the same equipment, so that actually we are interoperable, we do get synergies, and we can be a force multiplier by working together in the way that we do. So we'll continue to do that. We think that's really important. As you know, we've come a long way. We've had 30 years of underinvestment in defence forces in New Zealand over a long period of time. We've moved from a benign environment to a much more globally strategically competitive environment. It's entirely appropriate that we double our defence spending. But that takes us time as we work through the acquisition of those key bits of aircraft and ships, and obviously needing to recruit more personnel as well. So, we need to be able to do that because we want to be part of these alliances, but we also it's really important we play our part. And so I make no apologies in the New Zealand context for actually wanting to double our defence expenditure. Again, with respect to the nuclear-free position, I've spoken about that over the course of the last week. I mean, that obviously has full support across all of our political spectrum, as you know, in New Zealand. It is a Kiwi thing, it's a matter of principle for us, and there is no appetite for change, and it won't be changing while I'm Prime Minister. And I think Australia and all of our partners have been very good at understanding our position and working with us around that and with that.
My question is for the Prime Minister and Albanese. Could you please outline the rationale behind the decision to cut Commonwealth industrial air funding for Queensland's 200,000 Kiwi expats and for all of the grand final line multiple severe weather events each year?
Well, what we've done is we did a review, and the review is about fast-tracking funding. It's about making sure that we remove some of the red tape and bureaucracy. Previously, there wasn't a system put in place. You had to have letters and exchanges and assessments taking place. What we've done is to move through in a full and fair way, 50-50 funding arrangement for every major event. But in addition to that, we're looking down the track in the future budgets as well as resilience as well. Every single event that has occurred in Queensland, I not only have signed off on important funding for Queensland and for Queenslanders, I've been on the ground, whether that be in Mount Isa in the far north, whether it be in Cairns, whether it be in southeast Queensland as well, or whether it be in central Queensland. We have done that. We're making sure that none of that will change whatsoever, and it's something that we're very committed to. And can I make this point, that before my government was elected, there wasn't a National Emergency Management Agency in place. We are seamless every time there's an event as well. We've had our minister on the ground sitting in on meetings, or indeed at the leadership level. I've sat in meetings with Prime Minister Crisafulli in Brisbane, in Cairns, right around this state to make sure, and none of that is going to change.
You mentioned earlier, state governments have said this decision to leave Queensland is worse off. Do you reject that?
State governments often say that on most things that they would like to advocate their interests against what is actually occurring. I'm just saying these changes will ensure faster support through a simpler scheme that is in place. There should not be an ad hoc arrangement. There should be an actual scheme in place. That's precisely what we're doing. That's why we did the review, and that's why we're adopting the recommendations of the review.
Prime Minister, James from the Post. The health of the Australian economy is obviously important to New Zealand's economic performance. Yet headline inflation in Australia is tracking outside its target band, and the government is continuing to increase spending, and some growth is being directly by state and federal government spending programs. How are you planning to put Australia on a low inflation, sustainable growth trajectory, and what do you make of New Zealand's economic?
Well, the truth is that the war that's occurred across the other side of the world, where neither Australia or New Zealand are protagonists, is having an impact on global inflation. We are experiencing the fastest and largest energy crisis that the globe has seen, far exceeding the 1974 OPEC crisis or other events, the events that occurred after the Russian illegal invasion of Ukraine. We're dealing with that, as is the rest of the world. But if you look at our economic fundamentals, they are very sound. We had our national accounts just this week. That showed the economy continuing to grow, annual growth of 2.5%. We're seeing the unemployment rate to be relatively low still, with a 4 in front of it. We saw, importantly in the national accounts, we saw the big growth being business investment occurring in the first quarter, and that's a good thing going forward. And I am positive that in spite of the difficulties that are there in the global pressures that are on our economy, there's nowhere you'd rather be. And we saw headline inflation is 4.2, so it's above the band, but trim mean inflation is 3.4, which is much closer to what the RBA wanted, between 2 and 3. We produced a budget just a couple of weeks ago that has $64 billion of savings in it. More savings than have been produced in any budget ever is what we produced. And we did that because we understand that was appropriate economic settings going forward. So the changes that we've made, compared with what we inherited in 2022, every year, firstly, 2 budget surpluses, the only budget surpluses in recent memory that have been handed down consecutively, and reduced deficits. So we're providing sound economic management in difficult global economic circumstances going forward, and that assists us in the trade relationship that we have with our friends in New Zealand.
I guess just following up on that, I mean, obviously you probably have limitations in what you want to say about New Zealand domestic policy, but what are your reflections on the New Zealand economy over the past year and from these talks as well?
Oh, look, I have no intention of commenting on domestic politics of any nation. What I would say is that the relationship between Australia and New Zealand has never been stronger.
Yeah.
And the meeting that we had today was with the business community in particular, showed that. I mean, business leaders have travelled from New Zealand and from different parts of Australia, senior business leaders, because they know how important this relationship is. It is in both of our countries' interests for that to be further advanced in the future, and I'm very confident that that will occur.
Yeah, look, and Nick, you know our New Zealand settings. We've come through a budget where we've got growth at 2.7% next 4 years. We've got inflation around about 2% that period of time. And most importantly, to help with affordability challenges, we've got wages growing faster than prices, which is important. We've got our surplus coming forward a year to 2028. So that's all good. I'd just say, when you take you zoom out, we're living in a world of 195 countries, 8 billion people, everybody dealing with the challenges that we're dealing with. We're all over it. We've gone through pandemic, we've gone through inflation, we've gone through recessions, we've gone through weather events, we've gone through Trump's tariffs. Now we're dealing with a fuel crisis in the Middle East. And, in both cases in Australia and New Zealand, our job is to make sure we build as much financial security in order to give us a national security. But man, wouldn't you like to be living in this part of the world? Because out there is a massive opportunity for both Australia and New Zealand, which is, as I said, 2/3 of the growth in the middle class, 2/3 of global economic growth sitting in our region. We're not a long way away from it. We're bang smack in the middle of it. We have social and democratic institutions and values that people aspire to have. And importantly, we have abundant natural resources. And as I said at the beginning, we've got kick-ass, world-class people who should go out in the world and see a world of opportunity and bring the money home to Australia and New Zealand. So, that's been the mentality of our conversations as we think about, yes, we're going to have influence and use our agency to control as much as we can in the global political environment and where that world order ultimately ends up getting to. But in the intervening period, we're going to control what we can control in Australia and New Zealand, which is to build kick-ass countries. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Speaking of world-class
Thank you.
have you ever got to swim at one of our beautiful beaches?
We haven't, but we thought we might go to a mono competition and our speedos.